Oh my god, dude, the Lords of the Rings have emerged from their tombs beneath the underworld. And thusly, in this time of crisis, one Lord of the Rings emerges as the most colorful dude. Look at this guy, he's got 4 arts. They should call him Saruman of the many arts. First we have Pointy Finger Saruman, right? This is back when he was a proctologist for the Smurfs. He's got glowing fingers, dude. This is from, some nasty stuff. Now the second art is interesting. This is Saruman showcasing his ability to spill his many colors onto his own text box. This guy's going haywire out there. Looks a little bit like Frank Zappa in that one. Now the third art is a Sunset Grinder profile pic that somebody lifted off the internet. You know what I mean? This guy was probably on Raya or something. This wasn't meant to come out, but it showcases Saruman's more sensitive side. Oh, hang on, we got a full art treatment over here. Here's Saruman scowling, looking at his Palantir, which is like cellular technology in Lord of the Rings universe. He can chat with his buddy who's a little far away over in Mordor. Now listen up folks, we're doing a deep dive tonight on this hefty wizard, but first make sure you like and subscribe and just leave a comment for the algorithm. The AI that governs my fortunes on this platform hungers, dude. It's an ever hungry maw, and the food it craves is engagement. Engage with me, become engaged. We'll get engaged to each other, dude. I'll get married if you, listen, you leave a comment, I'll do anything you want. And if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee at the link in the description like my buddy Tyler. Alright, let's read this guy, and just forewarning, this is the most heavily templated card in Magic history. So it's 3 white, blue, and a black for a legendary creature, avatar wizard. It's a 5/4, has ward, discard an enchantment, instant, or sorcery card. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, each opponent mills 2 cards. When one or more cards are milled this way, exile target enchantment, instant, or sorcery card with equal or lesser mana value than that spell from an opponent's graveyard. That spell means the second spell you cast each turn. Copy the exiled card, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Alright, interesting. Esper Mill is not something we've seen a ton of. This is an interesting spin that gives us access to White's suite of removal and board wipes and everything that White has to offer. The ward on this is kind of brutal. May as well be hexproof because 99% of the time folks aren't discarding so they can eliminate this guy. He's not that much of a threat, I think. The way ward works though is whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter it unless that player pays the ward cost. So it can be targeted, but the effect is countered if they don't pay the ward cost. Well, what about Void Rend, dude? Well, listen, you dingus, Void Rend goes right through all that, because Void Rend can't be countered. Now listen, the second ability is pretty cool. It's unique spin on Reanimator. It's a reflexive trigger. So let's take this bit by bit. You cast your second spell, right? It doesn't matter if it's in your turn or somebody else's turn. Then your opponent mills 2 cards. Then you choose a card with the requisite type, exile it, and copy it, and it has to be less than or equal to the mana value of the second spell you cast that turn. Then you may cast it. All of this is part of the resolution of this ability. You're playing your opponent's deck. I like how Saruman rewards unapologetic mill, as much mill as you can possibly fit in. The more cards in your opponent's graveyard, the better. The spell that he's copying doesn't have been milled that turn either. Saruman also rewards instant speed shenanigans. Little cantrips and instant speed mill cards are great here. You can do this on your opponent's turn, so you can get this whole ability, brother. Esper colors pack lots of removal and control at instant speed, so you can remove threats, then get a little value out of the graveyard. I like the idea of a functional mill shell built around an Esper commander. What I mean by functional mill is building synergies and win conditions that use the mill's cards to advance your game plan. But ultimately, the game plan isn't to mill everyone out. Alright, first of all, let's talk about some mill-specific combos we can pack in this deck. Dimir has quite a few Goth icons amongst their ranks, and Duskmantle Guildmage is one such cool guy. So this is a blue and a black for a creature, human wizard, it's a 2/2. Has 1 blue and a black whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere this turn, that player loses 1 life. There's your win condition right there, buddy. It also has another ability that can make you mill 2 cards. Target player mill 2 cards. Anyways, this is a win condition in a deck where we're trying to mill a massive amount of cards. So this cute little fella combos with Mind Crank, 2 generic mana for an artifact. Whenever an opponent loses life, that player mills that many cards. But there are also a few cards that have this Traumatize type effect that the old Guild Mage can use to just end games. Traumatize used to be the standard for milling half a library. It's kind of been outclassed by some of these next cards. Like Maddening Cacophony. It's 1 and a blue for a sorcery. It has a kicker for 3 and a blue. Each opponent mills 8 cards. If the spell was kicked, each opponent mills half their library rounded up. This is a 9 mana combo, but that's Commander, dude. That's why we put 10 pieces of ramp in all our decks so we can do these 9 mana things, brother. Look at old Jace here trying to make it through an entire Post Malone album. Dude, you're killing Jace, Post Malone. Take it easy. Now we also have a new card that does a reasonable impression of the old card Fleet Swallower, and that's the Teresian Mindbreaker. It's 7 generic mana for an artifact creature Juggernaut. It's a 6/4. Whenever this guy attacks, defending player mills half their library rounded up. Has unearthed for 1 blue. These are named after Mother Teresa, dude, the Mindbreakers, because she broke the world's mind with her peace, brother. Alright, let's talk about some fun old school cards that benefit from massive mill. You got Lazav Dimir Mastermind, blue, black for a legendary creature shapeshifter. It's a 3/3. It has hexproof. Whenever a creature card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may have this guy become a copy of that card, except its name is Lazav Dimir Mastermind and it's legendary in addition to other types. And it has hexproof and this ability. This guy can do some wild things. This was my first ever commander and I just put a ton of mill in there and just had a bunch of stuff go off. And you got the old doppelganger here. 1 blue and a black for a creature shapeshifter. It's a 0/2. Has 1 blue and a black. Exile target creature card from a graveyard. This guy becomes a copy of that card, except it has this ability. And it says, "Fear not, your life will not go unlived." What a weird thing to say to somebody, dude. While Saruman cares about instant sorceries and enchantments, we can use the creatures we mill to deny our opponents those resources. And there's a whole suite of these cards that kind of get bigger the more creature cards are in your opponent's graveyards, like this little scary fella here. White of Precinct 6 is an early drop that can get really big with all the mill going on. Listen, we only use the finest of crabs in our mill decks, dude, and we got our 2 crabs in there because we got crabs, buddy. If you're doing mill, you gotta stick these little fellas in there because they just accrue a lot of value over time. Alright, we also got Altar of the Brood. It's another milling machine, even if you're just playing it fairly and not comboing out by flickering things in and out. And the Altar of Dementia can be used to generate even more mill. You also want to stick in mesmeric orbs, dude. Listen, you gotta get the orbs and the altars out there, dude. You ever see the movie Phantasm? It's a horror movie from the 80s, and let me tell you, this guy had altars and he had orbs too, brother. And the orbs could just stab you in the neck. The orbs, this guy had like orbs that would fly around and just stab people in the head for some reason. I don't even remember what the heck the movie was about. That guy kind of looks like Saruman anyways. It's on theme, dude. Saruman loves orbs, he loves altars, it's right in his wheelhouse. Alright, keep in mind too, if you're milling lots of stuff, an efficient reanimator spell like Animate Dead, Reanimate, Necromancy, these should all go in a deck like this. Back when these cards were made, you just named the dang card after what it did, dude. If you wanted to animate dead, you got Animate Dead, you didn't get it the rest of this nonsense. Plus these can hit any graveyard. Oh man, what about this guy? He's holding the keys to your heart. You got Zelix Sanity Flare, 2 and a blue for a legendary creature horror. It's a 2/3. It has Hive Mind. Whenever a player mills 1 or more creature cards, you create a 1/1 black horror creature token. As 1 and tap, target player mills 3 cards. Choose a background. I'm not worried about the background. Ever see this fella before? Can use a little extra mana to mill, and he turns milled creatures into fancy little lads that look like they have a conch shell on their head and dress like the old Duskmantle Guild Mage. And of course you have to include the old Consuming Aberration. 3 blue and a black for a creature horror, it's a star. Consuming Aberration's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyards, so this thing can get really huge. Whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a land card, then puts those cards into their graveyard. Consuming Aberration got new art in a Captain Engathro deck and looks really cool now. This is a threat and will eat removal. If you get the Altar of Dementia out there with this guy, you might be able to mill somebody out. Now I'm not sure how good this is going to be, but we got the Necron Deathmark. 3 black for an artifact creature, Necron, it's a 5/3 with flash. Has a Synaptic Disintegrator, dude. Don't you have one too? I got 2 of them. When this guy enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target creature and target player mills 3 cards. You always got to watch out for the skeleton dudes with the green lasers. I just think this is a neat little card in a mill deck. And guess what, brother? I think this might be the perfect shell for Geth, Lord of the Vault. 4 black for a legendary creature, Phyrexian Zombie. It's a 5/5 with Intimidate. Has X and black to put target artifact or creature card with mana value X from an opponent's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control tapped. That player mills X cards. I think this is just the shell for this guy. I mean, honestly, if I got this out there, I might not even cast Saruman, dude. After all that mill, this fella's just going to start accruing value, and the many little mill spells and effects we're playing with will help get some sweet soul rings in the bin. And there's lots of little mill spells that we can play while we're ramping up and getting ready to cast our commander or whatever else we're doing. You have cards like Glimpse the Unthinkable, Mind Grind. These can be nice early game plays to get some value into the yard. You got a bunch of sweet cards like Fractured Sanity, blue for a sorcery. Each opponent mills 14 cards. Also has cycling for 1 and a blue, and when you cycle this thing, each opponent mills 4 cards. This is a nice modal mill spell that we can throw away early game if we need to. Alright, let's talk about this brand new card out of March of the Machine, Breach the Multiverse. I bought like 5 copies of this, dude. 5 black for a sorcery. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian and nobody cares. This is pretty sweet, dude. This gets massive mill and a grip of creatures. I love this card. Everybody go buy it so my spec's gonna go up 6 cents in 5 years, dude. Alright, while we're on the subject of mill and using our opponent's graveyards, we got Mnemonic Betrayal, 1 blue and a black for a sorcery. Exile all opponent's graveyards. You may cast spell from among those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast those spells. At the beginning of your next end step, if any of those cards remain exiled, return them to their owner's graveyards. And then you exile this stupid thing. This is fantastic late game to get an opponent's Haymaker or Silver Bullet to react to whatever's on the battlefield. It's like drawing a hand of 20 cards from your opponent's deck. I like that, buddy. And you know who else likes that, dude? Sir Conrad. This triggers him when the cards get exiled and then when they're returned to the graveyard. Outside combo, that's our win condition, dude. Our Sir Conrad. He's out there riding on his horse. He's just blasting people in the face with his little glowing skull, dude. Come on. And we got the old Dreadhound, 4 black for a creature, Demon Dog. It's a 6/6. My nickname back in college, the old Demon Dog. When this guy enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. Whenever a creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from a library, each opponent loses 1 life. It herds souls toward eternal torment. And you know what? That's your bros, buddy, heading for eternal torment. This is Sir Conrad's dog, dude. He got bit by a demon. Here we are. Not quite as good, but feeds our mill strategy. Alright, man, you know why mill is fun? Because you get to play with your opponent's stuff. The value Saruman provides is late game icing on the cake. I'm not sure if I'd cast him every game, honestly. There's a lot of hoops you gotta jump through for this fella. There are a bunch of ways to build mill, but Esper control shell around a functional mill sounds like a great time to me. I'm putting up a sample deck list, and it plays pretty smoothly as is, but could be punched up with cards like the old Bruvac here. Another mill combo machine, but listen, man, he's 35 bucks. And this thing is like $18, but if you want to include a hot enchantment, dude, you got the old Blood Chief Ascension, 1 black mana. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent lost 2 or more life this turn, you may put a quest counter on Blood Chief Ascension. Whenever a card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, if this thing has 3 or more quest counters on it, you may have that player lose 2 life. If you do, you gain 2 life. That's fantastic. Card's 18 bucks or so, but is a great early game play and combos with some of the cards I mentioned. So very interesting commander. We got Saruman out there representing mill wizards with style, dude. We call him Saruman of the many versions of his own card. Hey, listen folks, I want to take a second just to thank you guys for all the support, all the views, all the subscribers. You know, people say, oh geez, you know, you should have more subscribers. You're the best channel I've ever seen. You're the greatest human being that I ever lived. I know all that stuff, you know what I mean? But it takes time, dude. You gotta bleed for your subscribers. You gotta earn them, brother. Listen, I love you all every single day. Sneaky G from Better Commander signing off.